ready for takeoff.
We are cleared for takeoff.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time to take flight in your community and in your life. This is Audio Airstrike.
What's up, everybody? I'm Everett, Hall-McNeill, and this is Audio Airstrike, episode 208. And I don't know why I got these damn headphones on, considering I'm trying to make people comfortable.
It's all good. You wear them if you need to. You don't have to.
Well, with that being said, this is the 208th episode of Audio Airstrike. We're back at it again. I had to take kind of like a break just to kind of re-energize and stuff of that nature. And with me is a very special guest. It's her first time on Audio Airstrike, but she's known me for many years. We basically grew up together in the same neighborhood. Now she is a photographer, a great mom, and also is now the owner and host of her own podcast, Moody Mama Podcast.
Hi,
Ladies and
guys.
gentlemen, this is Gabrielle.
Hi guys, how are you doing? So thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for inviting me. I'm super excited to kind of get into topics, and it's interesting because I'm behind you know what I mean? I'm behind another podcast, and normally I'm like kind of the host, so it's nice to be like a guest star,
Yeah, absolutely. Because here's the thing, right? There's a bunch of podcasters now locally that I support. I support Ivan and his Ivan Jr. podcast. He's been on the show before. I support Jabril and Guns of Butter, the podcast, which is more of a hip hop news podcast.
Okay.
I support him and that whole team. Shout outs to them. And now we have your podcast, which is doing phenomenal. It's doing great. There's real conversations on the life of a mom and the different struggles.
I just kind of go with the flow, just like you are, very similar. But I kind of I relate to like real topics. I talk about stuff that doesn't get talked about, or I talk about things that, do get talked about, but not so in depth where there's feelings and, real truth behind it. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what, and I don't know if you listened to the first episode, but I kind of was like, I don't know why I'm starting a podcast, but now I realize why, because I like touching people's lives. Like I like giving them real stuff so they can relate to. So, and I know you're the same thing, like the same thing. You want to do the same thing. You want people to be able to relate to you.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing, because especially with now, there is so much going on and there is so much happening.
I know, there's so much.
That now it's become a point where we can't have the fun conversations and everybody just getting along, regardless of. Perfect example. I'm gonna give y'all a little backstory about how we met. They moved into the neighborhood. I feel like I'm older than everybody, even though I'm only in my early 30s, because I've been in this neighborhood so long.
I didn't realize that. I thought we were like the same age. So you're actually older than me. Mm-hmm. Okay, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, and you guys moved in, and of course, when people move in, this was like 04, 03, and you guys moved in, new set of kids in the neighborhood, got familiar with everybody. She got a little dating on. I look out saying, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that. Just
you were almost like the big brother in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what we would call you, like the big bro, because that's, you would kind of come out, you kind of peek, see what's going on. Then you'd be like, if it got too crazy, you'd kind of go back inside, but you would like kind of lay low, but at the same time, still be that big brother.
Like and I think for me, and this is another whole subject I could get into, I think in my life, for me personally, I think I've always been the moral compass or the big brother or the person that just does the lookout. Like, hey, watch out for this. Don't do this.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out on this. I think because I grew up always being like that role just became my role as I became older in different friend groups.
You're an only child, right?
I grew up an only child, but I just realized I got like 4 other siblings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's another subject.
Yeah. I grew up, so I kind of grew up by myself.
So that would make sense why you were kind of that big brother role in a sense, because, you didn't, at the time, obviously, like your childhood, like you didn't have any siblings, growing up with siblings. So almost like the neighborhood became like your family, right?
Yeah.
And so you were kind of looking out for your family like a big brother. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I had, especially everybody being slightly younger than me, outside of maybe 3 or 4 people. Everybody was slightly younger than me. Like, so it's like, I didn't grow up with sisters growing up. So if I saw you and Gia, it was like, I gotta look out for them so the parents don't trip. a little bit.
And Gia and I have 8 years.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's like you're looking after like a baby.
Yeah, and I just had to look out for her because there were times I remember people being annoyed with Gia. I would just pat Gia on the back like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Oh, man.
Keep on doing what you're doing. Shout out to Gia.
Yeah, literally. I always shout out to Gia. I think there's just some kids in life that people just for some reason tend to just like go to not be so nice. And I think this is also like in general, like as a whole, like society, as the world, like I think it's like some people that are like they just look like people can attack them with words. Like I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. Like, you know, there's some people that keep their cool, they're kind of chill, and people will still be mean to them, but there's absolutely no reason for people to be mean to them. They just are.
Well, I think a lot of that is they deal with stuff in the home. They looking for an outlet to take it out on. They see this nice person. They look at people like that as weak.
Yes.
I have been in this situation several times over. I there was an incident where I was bullied in this neighborhood.
I remember.
Yeah, it was an incident. I was bullied in this neighborhood.
I do remember.
And I came and literally, and shout out to my cousin Devin. I remember Devin was like, you haven't been outside or talked with these people in like a couple of years? I said, yeah, Devin. I said, this is the situation. I have to separate myself. I'm 14 now. I'm 14 at the time.
Yeah, I remember this. But I remember also coming to the door and be like, can you come out?
Yeah.
Like, and you'd be like, or I feel like your mom would answer, be like, he's doing something or he's not here. And I'm always like, I wonder if he was just here and just didn't want to come out. Like,
there was certain, like, so I'll let the cat out the bag. Most of the time, I would make my way out there if you or somebody else asked.
Yeah.
There were other times.
Yes, others. There were others.
There were other times if certain people were outside, I just wouldn't come out because it was like, what's the point? Like,
yeah.
It's gonna go left with so and so out there. But then my cousin Devin convinced me to go back out, and nobody had seen me consistently come back out in 3 years. So when I walked over, so when I came back out and I walked out the house, I was like, they all looked over. It was like, oh shoot, because they didn't realize how tall I had gotten.
You did get. I do remember that like period where it's like I would see every once in a while, and then I feel like the next time that I saw you, you were like, I was looking up because you got so tall.
Yeah,
you're
I'm between 6'3", maybe 6'4".
Yeah, you are pretty tall.
So the growth spurt happened, but I haven't been consistently outside, so nobody was there to gauge how tall I was getting. Then it was like, okay, how's he gonna like he's tall now, so like what is he gonna do? But I came out, I came outside basically consistently acting the same. It's just older and more mature.
But you know what? That also made you who you are today, right?
Mm-hmm.
The things that happened in the past, right? It makes us who we are today. So even though, you went through all of that, and I say all of that because it can take a toll on your mental health, especially as a teenager. You're going through puberty, you're growing up, but that made you the incredible person you are today, right? Because without that struggles and without those, what you went through with the, with the neighborhood and stuff like that, it wouldn't make you who you are. Even though it may have just been, a glimpse of your life, it still made you this person. So it sucks, thinking about that's what you went through, but at the same time, it's who you are. So I'm thankful in a way that it kind of, brought us because, we're still friends, which is so cool. I feel like I haven't seen you in so long. Yeah. Oh my, jeez. Now I'm feeling old. Because
I met you, it was definitely 2004.
Yeah, I can't remember the year. I'm losing it.
Oh, yeah. I don't forget years. I don't forget dates. I mean,
really?
I'll forget dates, but I may forget dates, but I definitely will remember the time frame. Like this month, this year, this happened. You got some good memory. That's how I'm wired.
But I think it's like as the more kids I have 4 kids. So as the more kids I have, the less I remember. I don't know if that's like a mom brain thing, but I really believe in that.
You got a lot going on. You got a photography business going on. You got your podcast, plus you're being a mom.
Yeah.
So I don't expect anybody to know. Hey, in 2014 you moved into this neighborhood.
Yeah, I could probably tell you a grade because I remember being like fifth grade ish. But I feel like it was, oh my goodness. I just goes to show like we're getting old. Mm-hmm. Like I know when our parents said, oh, time flies, but no, we're getting old.
But the crazy thing about it is that during that time, it felt like forever.
It did.
It felt like days would just drag and you had more fun. Like it felt like days would just drag. You had more fun. You had time to just sit back over there and really enjoy the moment. Now, by the time we end this, it's going to be half the day going to be gone.
Do you know, and I think I know why, is because we are timekeepers, and I've talked about this too.
Mm-hmm.
We are timekeepers, so we are the ones that control the time, right? If we want something to slow down, like a moment to slow down, we're going to slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
But if we want something to speed up, we're going to speed it up.
Right.
So as adults, I feel like we're constantly like, oh, I can't wait to go to bed. I'm exhausted. Can't wait to get home. Oh, but think about it. We're rushing time. We really are. So if we just take a second, right, and just chill out and enjoy something, savor something, I think we can slow down time. And also, there's been studies that show when you do something out of the ordinary. Let's just say you go through the Starbucks drive through right every day, and you get the same order and something, versus going inside for once, right? And let's just say ordering something completely different, right? You're out of your element, but you're still doing something similar. Time's going to start to slow down.
Right.
So the key to life, I think, is to do something new every day, and time won't be like that. We are in charge of slowing down time or speeding it up.
I like that. I like that take. I definitely like that take.
I mean, I think that's important. Like, and going back to what you were saying with like, the childhood stuff like that, like we savored that time. We slowed it down because we were having such a good time, like as kids. I think that's why kids are so innocent, because they live in the moment. We live for the future. Does that make sense? Like as an adult, like we can, okay, this is a perfect example. Like when it comes down to, like, let's say elections, like right now, we're all thinking about it right now. It hasn't happened. It's going to happen. Like we think for the future. We're always living in the future. We don't live in the present like kids do.
And then when we get older, we miss it.
Exactly. But do we miss as a kid, or we miss how time was slow? It's an interesting thought, right?
Here's what I think. Here's just me personally, right? So if we take how we grew up, our era of being kids in this particular neighborhood that we both grew up in.
Okay.
So technically, I ain't gonna say technically to be true, we were the first generation kids in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
Even though you came a little later,
you're
the
right.
90s kids to early 2000s kids was the first kid generation in this neighborhood.
Because of when the neighborhood was built, yes.
Yeah, because from when the neighborhood was built. So families moved in, had kids, we're the first generation. So now, because we would be all over, I kid you not, we would be in somebody's backyard, behind the trails.
But we trusted, this is another thing too, we trusted that, like our parents trusted that this neighborhood was safe.
Right.
Now, I'd be afraid if I let my kids out, like in like my neighborhood. It's like a trust thing. It's like society has changed. We know that things evolve, society evolves. But like, would you trust, if you had kids, would you just let them out anymore?
Well, here's the thing. I still know majority of the people in this neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, it's like, okay, if they over here, I know that person, I know it's safe. But if they over at a neighbor house that I don't really fool with, I'm like, bring your tail back home. It's a difference. So now, I know a lot of people don't have that luxury because some people have not lived in the same neighborhood for over 30, 20 years.
Exactly.
So it's like, you have to gauge, you have to get familiar. Like they started having block parties over here in this neighborhood. So what I started doing,
block party.
You should come back. That'd be it. You should come back and just
we
hang.
need a bigger house. I got a bunch of kids.
This is off the top. I was trying to get you to buy the one on the corner. I don't know if.
Oh, what's your name's parents?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was only 4 bedrooms.
Oh, you needed more.
I got 4 kids.
Oh, so you needed more, and you can't. Okay, I understand now.
But it would be. I remember them moving. It would be like a cool house. It would be cool to come back and kind of, or even to live in a neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood where, no lie, when we first moved in, we had to get our roof done, and neighbors next to me. So I live here. I have neighbors on the other side. Came out and were yelling at the people doing my roof. And then started yelling when I came outside. I was like, whoa. I was like, what's going on? And I'm a very chill person. I just go with the flow. I am who I am. And they were like, they're doing the roof. And a roof piece, like, wind. It was one of the windiest days. I swear, the wind was like 40 miles an hour. And I was like, I will personally pick up any piece of, from the roof if it goes in. Because, they're ripping it down.
Right.
He started yelling, getting in my face. And first time I have ever met this guy, I was like, I'm so sorry. He was like, you have yard sales every week. I was like, I just moved into the house. This is the 3rd day. And he's like, no, you have yard sales all the time. And I was like, huh? I was like, maybe the people before us. So I'm afraid to even step out of my house because of my neighbors. Like, That's one of the reasons why I'd love to move.
Terrible. That's terrible.
But it's like first impressions, right? They mean everything. We know that. They really do. And I mean, you can give people second chances because maybe it was a bad day, but it's like every time I talk to them. So it's like,
hell no.
Exactly. It sucks living in a neighborhood where, you know, the kids can't really play outside. So it's nice that, you know, we did live in a neighborhood as kids that we could trust, because trust is hard to trust people.
Yeah, especially now. Like, because here's the situation. Was it perfect back then? Absolutely. Nothing's perfect. But the thing about back then was you could go 2 doors down, go 3 doors down, and know nothing was going to happen. 9 times out of 10, my mom knew he probably over there at Gabrielle's house, or he probably over there at Kyle's house, or he probably over there, or he's in the woods a little bit, but he ain't far enough to the point I can't hear him.
Yeah. And this also depends on like your kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? If your kids are, you know, if you trust your kids and they're good kids, you know, you kind of trust them that they're not going to do anything bad either.
Right. Like the worst thing I had to deal with hanging out with y'all would be Joel not giving me a warning, climbing on my back and just doing it.
Oh, because he was like a baby in a way.
You talk about 7, 6 years old. So this dude is like climbing on my back.
It would be my middle. It would be like Kai, and Kai would do that.
Yeah, freaking look like freaking Tarzan when he was younger, Joel. Long hair, deep tan, just climb on your back.
He's definitely chilled out now.
I was like, who is? I said, who is it? He's like, then he wouldn't say nothing, just climb. He's like, hold still. I was like, bruh, you not giving me no warning.
I think because you were taller than us, right? Yeah. And so, you know, it was cool to kind of climb up your back. I thought you were going to say something like when so-and-so used to like ding dong ditch. I thought that's where that conversation. I remember one time I was watching like Sabina and Christina like going up to doors like from my window and like ding dong ditching. I mean, don't get it. I wasn't like the best either, so I won't lie. I would be in it with them, but I wouldn't be the one going to ring the doorbell because that was like the most fun part. So I would.
One of y'all did that to us one night.
Probably
one of y'all did this to us. I'm gonna ask questions. I'm gonna find out who, because I opened the door. Like, who the hell?
It's nobody there. Now you can't do it because of Ring doorbells. You know what I mean? Ring doorbells have like changed the way people have ding dong ditch. Like now, like you got to like wear a mask. But no, I remember a couple times that they've done your house. I mean, it's funny now. I can look back because I'm like an adult, and if my kids did, I'd be like, man, don't do that. But I do remember always being. I never ding dong ditch, but I would always watch people that did and just laugh hysterically because people would just come out and be like, it's almost like calling and saying, "Is your refrigerator running?" You better go catch it.
It's like the simplest prank. It's like,
but what is that? Kids being kids. Now, granted, if it's every weekend all the time, like that, I would get like if you would get mad. But like every once in a while, like I feel like that's, I don't know, kids being kids. Can kids be kids anymore?
You know, that's a crazy question, right? Because I look at it like this. Are kids more aware of stuff than we were? Yes, they are.
Yeah.
But they should be given the platform to live a life without people forcing them to adult so fast into whatever politics you grew up with.
So going to that, and I think it's probably a good thing. So Misek asked me yesterday, he's in middle school, right? And he came home and he was like, hey, people were talking about it. He was like, what's an abortion? Mm-hmm. And I'm very honest with my kids, right? Sometimes I think I'm maybe too honest, but I try to be honest at an age appropriate. And he's 12. He's in middle school. He knows. Like, he knows all that stuff. Like, I don't have to go into, the birds. Like, he knows it. I explained it to him, and he was like, why would anybody do that? And I said, I agree that, like, it's your choice, your body, your choice, right? And I explained this to him. And I also said, I'm going to explain a scenario, right? And I said, and I want you to, kind of be, like, honest in what you think about this. And I said, if, let's just say, a father, right, molested and raped his daughter, she got pregnant, right, and she wanted to get an abortion. And I was like, basically saying, like, that's when I think it's okay. I think it's her choice. It's, that's traumatizing. Like, granted, if that baby were to be born, what is it, like 90% something would be wrong with the baby, like a lot of things. And I said, and he was like, oh, so then that's when somebody would get an abortion. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that is probably because the baby wouldn't live. It could be dangerous. There's just so many things going into it, and having to explain that. But see, that's where that goes to show he didn't even get out of school yet before people were already talking in middle school. I mean, he's 12. There's middle schoolers, from 11 to 14, 15.
And that was not a conversation when we were 12. That was not a conversation with 12.
It wasn't. I mean, I get it. I'm transparent. Whatever's going on in the world, I want my kids to know to a certain degree, right? I don't want to shield stuff. But it's like, I wasn't expecting that as a mom for that conversation to happen. Especially, I don't, at this point, I'm still thinking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just had that conversation with my 12-year-old. But it needed to happen because that means kids are talking about it. What else? What else are they talking about? Politics are always being brought in. When we were kids, yeah, you're right. We wouldn't have even, but now these real life conversations, it's almost like the 20s have become the teens and the 30s have become like, we're going 10 years back. Like everything's starting to like shift. Like, could you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely think so, because the conversation that you would have in your 20s, people are now starting to have that in the teenage years very, very early. And the conversation that you would have at 40, you're now having in 30s. It's like a step. It's like this weird advancement.
Yes.
Where it's like, and I'm be honest with you, I am concerned of it because of how I grew up. I grew up where it was like, let these kids be kids. Y'all trying to adult them too fast to the point they may not be ready for some of these conversations, or it may be too soon.
Yeah, that's
my concern. And I don't even have kids yet.
I wasn't expecting my 12-year-old to ask me that. Like, I still am like kind of like, but I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to, but do you think that this is what's going on in the world? Do you think that like, because we're advancing, like we're pushing back the ages, that problems are kind of, the problems that they would have in their 30s are now in their 20s, like all that stuff's kind of being shifted?
So there's a catch-22 with that, right? So if they are more aware of stuff, does that help or hurt their childhood? Like, does it strip away a little bit of their childhood? Then on top of that, I think it helps advance their adulthood, because by the time they're our age, they're already aware of half the stuff that's going on.
Or they've already experienced half the stuff.
Or they've already experienced it. So what I'm concerned about is that these kids later in life may be acting different because they're getting to the point like we had a childhood growing up. These kids, I don't know if they're going to have that elongated childhood.
They're not. I don't think so. It's going to go like this.
It's going to snap, because now you're teaching children, and this goes back to what you said earlier, you're teaching children to be timekeepers at an early age instead of them embracing the time that they have.
Dang, my mind's like blown, but it's right.
You are now teaching kids at an early age to prepare for the future when they need to just be happy with what's right now.
That's like going into kindergarten. Literally, they want them to know all of this stuff. I mean, it's crazy the amount of stuff that they. But what happened to them just being able to put their clothes on and know their name? Yeah. Like, I feel like I went in and I like just, they were like, what's your color? Like, I never had to do any of that, like all that stuff. But now they're expecting them, and they're going to hold them back. Like, it is, why are we rushing time? Like, why are we not embracing? I just don't get it.
Because everybody, I hate to say this.
We're in a rush. We're in a hurry.
Between the internet and how fast technology moves,
okay, yeah,
we are in a rush to be successful. We are in a rush to be admired. We are in a rush to be respected. We are in a rush to make it look like we got it all together.
And a rush to be famous, because I think everybody wants to be in the light, a star, famous, whether that means, social media, whether that means like a TV show. Think about reality TV shows, or like, they may even be in charge of, you know what I mean? When you think of TV shows, like you think of like, scripted ones. I think reality TV may be above the scripted ones. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants a fame, which I guess I get it in a way, because, you're making money and everybody knows you. But why does everybody, that's another thing, why does everybody want to be known in a way?
Because you got to think we're out the pandemic, right? So pretty much out the pandemic. So we are longing to be respected and admired by our community, or just a group of people. Now, in reality and in real life, it's going to take you twice as long to build that up. And truth be told, locally, let's be honest, this may hurt a little bit. Locally, only a handful of people are going to respect you locally that know you. The people you went to school with, they not going to come out and support your podcast or mine.
I've also noticed that
they not going to do that. But a decent amount of strangers will, because
I never thought. You're right.
Because they don't see you as Gab that you went to school with, that you grew up with, that you had all these problems with. They don't know that backstory. They just see you as who you are now. They're not looking at you as what you were 10 years ago.
Interesting.
And adding that into now. They're not doing that. So now we are in an age where, okay, I'm not fully accepted, or I don't feel fully accepted locally in my town or in my state. So let me be a success story. Let me be something that I want to be online.
That makes sense.
And then a bunch of strangers, are going to support who I am and generally support who I am. And then by the time that the local people find out how big I've gotten, they're going to be late to the party. That is where we are at.
Like, if you are right, I couldn't even begin to even explain how right that is. And also because people, when you post something on social media, only see a glimpse of people's lives. Like, I'm only gonna post, like, let's just say I'm famous, I'm only gonna post what I want you to see. So these people that idolize these strangers that idolize, let's just say they're only seeing what you put out there. So your life in a way will almost look perfect, or almost like, you know what I mean, like, oh my God, you're doing this, so I want to do that because so and so, like that. You influencer. That's what they call them, social media influencers, because you will influence a random person's life because of just something you posted. And
you will do that either in a good way or a bad way.
You were right.
You will either do that in a good way or a bad way, because the reality of the situation is, right, a lot of these people that have become famous off of social media, a lot of them came from small towns. They were not supported in their small town.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've seen, like, on the Netflix show, and they talk about it. They went through, a lot of those, influencers went through a lot. Same thing. What you just said, like, went through a lot of family stuff. Came back, from a poor background and stuff like that. And now look at them. They're making a lot of money. And what you said, it's the same thing.
And the reality of the situation is, because we are in the influencer era, people are looking at that as a fast track to get out of their situation. But in reality, it's not as fast as you think, because you have to put the work in. I'll use your brother, for example. Your brother, out of nowhere, and I was just looking at the videos. I remember I was randomly on TikTok one day. Your brother, out of nowhere, had 1.4 million views. I'm sitting there going, I'm like, I this is my first honest opinion. I literally was about to call him and be like, bro, we need to talk now, because now you have 1.4 million people that you can tap into. You can show them the music. You can still do the funny videos. You can still do the funny videos. You can do whatever you want.
It's your platform.
But now you getting at least 30, 40 comments guaranteed each video you put out.
Yeah.
Now it's there. And that is like that is huge. And I remember looking at that and going, he wasn't, I know for a fact, because he came from the same area I came from. And for personal reasons, and for personal reasons, I ain't going to say I will never say on this platform where I live at. Never. We both came up in the same area. And yes, when I met him, he was a young kid. I remember he
was
grew
like
up
a
in the same
baby.
place, pretty much. And to see what he's done and how far he's progressed, I knew he's not going to get the support from here. They don't support locals around here.
Yeah.
They don't support the creative stuff.
They don't.
It doesn't get supported.
You do something out of the ordinary and you're weird.
Yeah.
There's no other word. I mean, I like being weird, but you're weird.
If you leave here and go to be an NFL player, or you go to play for the local baseball team, the local basketball team, that's one thing. People accept that. Or if you get the standard 6-figure job, grow the family, people respect that. But if you do something creatively or something that's influencer-like, people gonna look around here. People are gonna look at that and go, "What?"
Like we were talking about before we even started this podcast. Like
Right.
you were talking about how people were negative and they say what you do is not a job. Like you put full-time hours into what you do, right? Just because you're a creative and you do things that aren't the norm, what I was saying, it's because you don't work a 9-to-5 job, and it's great that you do, right? But that's not for everybody.
Right.
You shouldn't be like kind of looked down upon because you're doing what makes you happy in life, which is what I'd hope, right? What you love, and just things that are out of the ordinary. You know, again, with the society changing, right? You know, basically like we're teaching these kids like, okay, you need to do this. Like you're in a hurry. Like you need to, you know, go to college. You need to get this job and stuff like that. But like, what about the rest of us? You know, granted, I went to college. I have 2 degrees, but I'm doing 2 things that are completely different from my degree, and I love it. Like, and you know what I mean? And granted, I'm, you know, not where I want to be right this second, but I'm going to keep on working hard and working hard.
And you progressing.
Exactly. But people are going to look at me and be like, why? It doesn't make sense. But I don't know if it's the area around here, but you're right. So many people are just, they're just not supportive.
Well, and also you have to understand this, right? A lot of the time, people are casting what they fear, what they wanted to do, on to you.
Yeah.
They weren't successful
Yes.
at what they did, so now they
find somebody.
they find somebody that's going for it, and then you trying to cast your fears on them, basically through an insult or a genuine concern, whichever side of the fence that you're on. That's what you end up doing. That is discouraging. I've told people in this area, if you want to go into the art field, if you want to go into TV and film, if you want to go into video production, if you want to do that, do it. But just know, go outside of this town.
Literally.
Go outside of this town to get the support that you need, because they have the support just up the street in the city. They have that support down south.
Do they? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always liked moves down south because of the
they have that. They have that support. If you go out west or something like that, there's some support there. But here, the reality of the situation is that people have been stuck in their ways and taught that the 9-to-5 is the way to become successful and to grow. Now, can you use the 9-to-5 to fund your passions, which you want to turn into a full-time job? Absolutely. I'm doing that right now.
Yes.
However, the 9-to-5 job is only going to pay you a certain salary, is only going to pay you a certain grade. And if you were trying to multiply your income to fulfill your dreams, there is nothing wrong with pivoting and finding multiple streams of income to do that.
Most millionaires do. They have at least 7 forms of income.
Absolutely. And gone are the days, that whole thing of staying at one job, taking a pension, and thinking the company's going to look out for you, those things are gone. I've said this
Just
on
like
this platform
Security.
before. Yeah. You are not going to, look, these companies are not looking out for you.
Yeah.
If you stay with a company for 5 years, that is rare.
No, you were so right. Like, even that's what I was saying about the pensions. Most jobs are like not matching, like, retirement funds, like all these pensions. They're not doing it anymore.
Nickel and diming the matching.
I mean, nobody's in retirement, so you got to do something on your own.
Yeah. If you make, like, I look at it this way, right? Okay, let's say a person that's making $400,000 a year. Let's say the person's making $400,000 a year, right? So, if I was making $400,000 a year, you really think I wouldn't be buying a house every year and having people rent it out? You think about it. I would buy a house.
Multiple things of income.
I would buy a house the second I get a $400,000 job. I would have my own house, yes, but I am buying a house every single year. I have $400,000. I'm not gonna blow it. I'm like, look.
Invest. You're going to invest.
I'm gonna invest. I'm definitely gonna invest. If you tell me I got $400,000, but I could take this $100,000 off of my salary every year and buy a house with it, and then get people to rent from me. And if
it's all about money. It's how much you may not get your investment back though. Within, like, if you're renting it, let's just say you're buying whatever house price, you're not going to make your money back. You will in the long run.
And you will in the long run, because
that's what investors do. Right. It's in a long run.
Because now I have 5. Let's say, okay, I do that for 4 years. Now I have 4 properties plus mine. And the rent now, what you have to be smart about doing that is finding a house in an area that is cheap.
A high need.
That is cheap and is a high need, and you can get in there and you can do a full rehab on it. So that way.
Oh, we're getting into full rehab. You got construction background?
Well, I've trust me, with this real estate stuff, I've looked into a lot of different things. And when it comes to doing it that way, so instead of you buying a house in an area like we lived in, where I don't know if I would do that unless you're getting I would get the land first, then build the house. That's a whole
It's impossible with our county, but it's a whole different.
It's crazy. But the one thing that I would do is I would look into an area where houses are going for potentially a third of if I'm making $400,000, a third or half of the salary.
Well, you don't even know in this this market economy.
I know the market is crazy now.
It's what do you do? Like, if it does, this is the thing. A lot of investors right now are buying because they know that people aren't going to be that have money that aren't going to be able to buy, right? So then they can rent them at a higher price. So they're still going to be making all this money. But then when the housing market breaks, the people are going to be able to afford a house, but all these interest rates are going to still be high. So again, the investors come in. It's like the only way people in that medium income, right? Like basically where they fall, they have what they say the poor, the wealthy, in the middle, is when the housing market is either going up a hill or a mountain or kind of going down, in those in-betweens. Because the other ones, we have so many investors buying all the houses and basically for themselves so they can rent them out so they can make money. So it's it all depends on the market. It really does. And it sucks.
At the end of the day, people just have to do their due diligence on which area, what are the comps in that area, what are houses going for, what can I get? Can I get a fixer upper house in a certain area for cheaper so that way I can pay the house off and the land off faster?
I would love to, I think it'd be so cool to, I think about it, but I would never do it, live, off grid, right? And kind of have my own, big, huge, acre lot or whatever and have a house and, and have, chickens. I mean, I don't want to, actually have a farm, but it's, an idea.
To be honest with you, there is and I'll give this to you off air. There is a website that you can use to actually look at land for sale. So I'll give you that to it off air because that's a totally and I know what people going to
public stuff too.
Yeah, and I know what people going to say. Everett, why don't you just give it on the podcast? I'm like, bro, I do not need. This is selfish me. I do not need more competition about where I'm gonna find these places at. So yeah, I'll give it to you.
So you're gonna you're gonna buy a piece of land and you're gonna build a house.
I'm in that position now.
Oh, okay. That's what you want to do?
Because down
the street.
Down the street, I'm literally in that position now.
And it's a pain in the butt from some of these counties, the way for the permits and stuff, just to build a house. It's obnoxious.
But what I'm doing is I'm waiting for this market. I mean, to do that right now would be crazy. That's why I'm kind of waiting for this market to kind of go down. So it could potentially be cheaper for me to, because technically I wouldn't need a home loan. Based on what somebody told me, I would need a construction loan.
That's true.
So really, I'd be using a construction loan rather than a home loan.
But who's going to build a house? Are you going to build a house with your bare hands?
I'm not. I mean, I'm not. That is not my forte to build a house from scratch. I'm definitely going to go to the right person that has the experience that's able to do that. But it definitely ain't going to be me.
So
I have the plan. Now I have it how I want it laid out. I know the back of my hand, and I also know people that know. I also know people that
blueprints. You have a blueprint?
Yeah, I have blueprints. I have interior decorating.
Expensive to buy. They're $500 to $2,500 to buy a blue plan.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's worth it for what I'm trying to do. So I think.
So just you? Would you be build a little pod for your mom in the backyard, or would she?
I mean, there's enough space. But this particular plan, there's enough because it's this particular plan that I have. Mm-hmm. There's enough space where I could easily move my mom in. She don't need to move in. She probably don't want to move in, but she could easily move in if she needs to.
I always say my siblings and I are always when we have a lot of money, we're gonna buy one huge lot and everybody gets their own house and our backyard will be shared, so everybody can go in the backyard and it's we'll live kind of on our own cul-de-sac in a way.
There are some moments especially in the neighborhood we lived in, because I was like looking around the neighborhood. I said, because now you're older, you pay attention to stuff like this. I was like, they put these houses a little too close.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Do you remember, like, that's how close it was? They say, like, it's some stat or something like that you get, like, you're more prone to getting in an accident, like, within a mile away from your house. Do you remember when my mom got in that really bad accident here?
Oof.
Like, we were all this is the weird part. We were all playing. I don't know if you were playing with us, and I heard a big crash. And we went out, and it ended up being like my mom. She, like, you know, the lane, how it, like, before they made that new lane,
right?
She was like turning, and someone came like next to the lane because they like illegally were in a lane and hit my mom and like totaled my mom's car. But we heard it when we were outside playing. Like, that's how, like, you know, we are so, this neighborhood is really close to the road, like too close. Like, to me, I wouldn't want kids. I couldn't. I don't know if I could, unless I'm like in like the
unless
back.
you in the back part like we're at.
Yeah, like I would not, like, I would be so scared with the kids because my kids are just like crazy.
Right.
You know, and I mean, a lot of people's kids are crazy. They're not like really crazy. They're just young. And so, you know, when they're young, they just kind of, you know, go
free flow, get into things and stuff of that nature.
So it's like, you know, just kind of thinking about it. But yeah, I just think that these houses were built. I mean, most houses are built to make money, right? I mean, wherever they can make money, wherever they can find that space, whatever that piece of land is. You'll see some of these houses, like down the street, they're literally like on the main road. When houses are on a main road, that's scary. But it's these investors coming, or these builders, and they're like, where can we make money? And that goes to show everything in this world is about money. Unfortunately, like, obviously, like, they say, you know, money doesn't buy happiness, which it doesn't. But like, if we don't have money, you know, we can't live. You know what I mean? Like, there's all this stuff that, like, so money, unfortunately, is the root to life. And I hate that, but it is.
Yeah. And another thing that I want to put in here is the issues, and the problem is that there used to be a time when they were developing neighborhoods, they would give you enough space and enough room to be comfortable to have a nice yard.
That's true.
Now
I have like no yard. Yeah.
Now I'm so thankful I'm in the position I'm in, because if I had to buy a house in this market with the way they're building these homes right now,
literally like this big. Literally.
Yeah. And then if you try to get something that's equivalent to how my mom's yard is, you gonna pay for it.
You'll pay $500,000 for just a little piece of land.
Yeah. That's how it is now.
For backyard.
It's actually cheaper for some people. You might as well buy a half acreage of land and just build your house. It's cheaper probably to do it.
Well, if you get parts in, because apparently it's still lagging. Like, these parts are like taking so long. Like, and the problem is once you put an order in, unless you pay for it and you're not waiting and then pay, you may not get locked in that price. So these people are waiting for like lumber, and it's like quadruple the price, and they weren't locked in. So the thing with the construction loan is what you're talking about, is those parts or and stuff like that. Sometimes they're not linked in. They'll give you like an estimated total price for like the house. But if you're like, you didn't buy all of that wood to like do your house, you may be screwed.
You may be paying that higher price.
Because it goes like this. Lumber is like, I swear, like the housing market too. It goes up and down. So it just sucks right now. It's like, I would love to build a house that's like, be able to like, you know, be big enough for like all, like me and my family. But it's just like, it's not. Right now, the housing market sucks. But, you know, like, not getting into like too much politics, but it's kind of like politics, right? You know, it kind of goes up, it kind of goes down. Like, there's so much going on right now in the world. It's just kind of like between the housing market, between the economy. It's just like, and we're all feeling it. I mean, I know you can probably say the same thing. Like, especially being in the business that we are, you know, we're in like a service business. So when economy comes like that, people won't need us services, and that kind of, you know, but when they do, you know, we can take our money and put it in other small businesses or other businesses. Is how the economy works. Yep. So we're all feeling it in different ways, right? I mean, yeah,
absolutely. So, yeah, it's definitely crazy. And, you know, the one thing that I will say is that regardless as to where you grew up, where you come from, definitely be smart about where you're putting your kids, what education you want them to have. Also be smart of the fact of kind of do inventory of the neighborhood you're moving into. Also take into account crime rate, and also take into account, look up any articles surrounding the town. If the articles are crazy, 9 times out of 10, it's not a town you want to move into.
Or mean neighbors.
Or mean neighbors. Good Lord.
I wish I could. I wish I could have looked up.
We literally just got over a neighbor situation. I'm not gonna say on this pod. I'll tell you that later. But
wait, which side? That. Oh, interesting.
So, with that being said, this has been another edition of Audio Airstrike. We're gonna be back with another episode, and we're gonna have Gabrielle right back in the chair. So stay tuned, and we'll check you guys later next week.
Thank you guys for listening. Have a great day.